Father, forgive them.
Welcome to the Jesus and Jones podcast. I'm your host, Andon Jones. My co-host is Thomas Kaiser, and our guest today is Jerry Endico. He is a man of God, father of four, and a entrepreneur. So we're just so thankful for you, Mr. Jerry, to be on this podcast with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Honored.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you. And one thing that we always like to start with, so just it helps for the audience and helps for ourselves. Like, what is your story from when you were born to this point forward?
Tough to kind of start. Well, I just turned 37. What is it, April 9th of this year? So Wednesday. A good time of the year to do this, because doing a lot of reflecting around the birthday as it was. So it was fun to really be thinking about this date and thinking about the time to share with you guys. So so 37. Done a little bit of everything in my career. I have, an amazing wife, four beautiful kids. Live in Birmingham, Alabama now, from Florida originally, Panhandle, the coast. Loved it there. So grew up, family was always entrepreneurs. They opened up all types of different businesses. Everything from, a sub shop to a goofy golf to a clothing store, video rentals, pool hall. My dad had opened up, one of those in the town that we lived in. It was actually like the first clothing store, first sub shop. I mean, just a bunch of groundbreaking stuff that he was able to do there. So I've always had that kind of entrepreneurial drive. Come from a large family, Italian descent. I have three sisters, so there was four kids in the family growing up. Always really loved that. And then as time grew, went into different stuff. Was big in sports. Was able to play sports growing up. Up into high school, and so big sports guy. But I always had that entrepreneurial itch. Worked in a couple of different organizations there for sales, did some construction, but always wanted to get out on my own. So this year, 2023, we had opened up the Jeremiah's here in Chelsea, and kind of, I guess that's what, the community knows me best for now is the Jeremiah's, the Ice Guy, the Frog Squad. But so much before that. And I hope to say so much after that too. So I don't know. I know that's kind of all over the place, but kind of hard to think about the whole story and kind of articulate it, I guess.
But for you, what brought you to Alabama?
So I was with AT&T in Florida. I had started there as a sales rep and had grown within the organization. And actually, my manager, one of my good friends and my district manager at the time was moving to Birmingham to take over a district here. And he didn't know anybody. It was new to him. He wanted people he could trust on his team, asked if I would go. I prayed about it, thought about it, spoke with my wife about it, my mother, because I'd lived there, my whole life. And, I'd lost my father whenever I was young. So it was tough making that decision to leave because I was the only boy in the family. So I felt kind of a responsibility, I guess you could say, to be there for my little sister and my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom was like, look, man, what's the worst that could happen? You go up there, you don't like it, you move back. So moved up here. I was up here for 3 months with AT&T before my wife and kids moved up because they were still in school. So they moved up June of 2014. I came up in March of 2014.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so 11 years, like on the button for me. For me, it's crazy.
That is pretty crazy. How has your dad helped form like you as a man, and also just like the businesses that you're involved in, and what you're looking for, and just kind of inspiration for you?
Yeah, so my relationship growing up, man, with him was kind of crazy. He was super rough, tough. He grew up in New York. was born in the 50s. His family, my grandparents and stuff had a rough time. They, we're in different industries that obviously don't give the best of, what's the word I'm looking for? The best environments for, the family. So he wasn't like super compassionate and like, loving and stuff. Was just super cool though. Was one of my best friends. So he developed me in a lot of manners. But I always loved how he wasn't afraid, to kind of do business. He would always bet on himself. And that's something that I guess rubbed off on me the most. So in regard to the business, to answer your question, this business, the Italian Ice, was something that we actually dreamed about and talked about often as I was a little kid. We lived in Florida. We would go to New York often and visit. And, even when we would travel, if there was Italian Ice, we'd always make sure that, we got some, and me and him really bonded over that whenever we would travel. And that was kind of our thing. He always talked about making Italian Ice and selling it on the beach in Florida. He's like, man, we would make a killing. How much fun would that be? So it was always a dream that I wanted to do. And so it was always kind of in the back of my mind. So that's what was the first business move of the Italian Ice was. It was always a dream of doing that with my father. So super cool that I get to do that with my boys. As Ethan works there with me. So being able to open that and, have, my wife and my family be a part of that was huge. Definitely checked a huge mark off the list of things, that you want to accomplish.
That's amazing. I really do think that's really cool because I even know from working with you in the past, that was something that you mentioned that was really like deep on your heart for the business and just for yourself of like entrepreneurial spirit, but also just that there's something that y'all talked about for years. And that even with him passing, there's something that you're able to do in remembrance. And also just like, it was very big of a legacy thing for you. So that's really cool.
So taking kind of a switching gears here, just a small switch. I kind of just want to talk about your salvation moment, like with your faith, that defining moment of like, it kind of hits you and you make that decision of, I'm going to follow Jesus. I'm going to give it everything I have. And this is the way that I want to live as a man from here on out. What's that moment look like for you? And if you have one?
Yes. So, like real life-changing moment for me. And obviously still a work in progress. I would love to say that I still have things together, but some days more than others. But after my father passed away, grew up in church. Family always went to church. My mom was a big proponent of that. My parents were raised Catholic, so we were not Catholic growing up, but really knew of God, but never had a relationship with him, growing up. Was baptized whenever I was, 8, because that was kind of the thing to do at the church in that time frame. But never really had that salvation moment until after I lost my father and I got sent away. I was sent away for about 8 months, give or take. And I was at this boys boot camp. Didn't have any distractions of life. And it was all prior military who ran it, but they were all saved. They were Southern Baptists. It's super cool. I mean, it was really great experience. Obviously, whenever I was there, I wasn't super enthused about it, but looking back, it's something that was huge. But they used to have, church every Sunday that we would go to. We would do Bible verses, read through the Bible. We would even memorize it, stand at attention and quote it. So I think that was really where I had my salvation moment. It was one of the church services. They did an altar call. And, here I was, my head was shaved. I was in like, military dress, combat boots. I was hysterical crying, and went up to the altar and prayed. And that was the moment for me that I knew that I wasn't going to be the same. I knew that I had changed. I felt like the Holy Spirit was in me. And honestly, to go back, I was always super smart. I was always very street sense, I guess street smart, some people call it. I call it common sense realistically, but I was always very aware of things, but I felt a different I guess I would, looking back now with my knowledge, call it discernment. Didn't really feel it or know that it was discernment then, but um, yeah, so I would say that was the moment. Since then, I've rededicated my life to Christ as a older, man, just with a more clear picture of who I needed to be and kind of my calling. But that was my real, life changing moment was then. I was 17. Um, and honestly, had it not been for getting sent away to that boot camp, man, I don't think that I would be speaking with you all. I definitely wouldn't have my wife and my amazing kids. It story would have been a lot different on the other side of that. I'll just say that.
Right. Well, that's awesome, man. Actually, I love that you bring up talking about kind of like this is probably the wrong word. Don't kill me in the comments, but like a rededication to Christ, kind of like you had that moment, but also, and this can be every day as well, but what kind of specifically what you meant of as a man in the position I'm in, what do I need to do to live my life for Christ, to be the man that I want to be, the man that I need to be. So I just love that you point that out, that like that's a thing that I feel like other men go through too. If like, you've had your salvation moment, you're saved, you've been baptized, but like also that time in your life where you really decide to get things together and just commit yourself and follow God and do what you got to do essentially. But yeah, I just like that you point that out. I think a lot of men can relate.
Yeah, and I think that I knew that I wanted better. I knew that I felt different, and I knew that I was like putting away old things, I guess you would say. But I just didn't know in that moment how to walk it out. You know what I'm saying? Like I guess really whenever I think about it, it's like the Highlands next steps, right? Like I didn't know what the next steps would be.
Yeah.
I was still a young man. I still didn't have the best influences in life. But whenever I was around those negative influences, whenever I was in those situations, even though, I still made mistakes after and some stupid choices, um, I had a different discernment. Like I felt different in those. Like where before was kind of wild and fancy free, just carefree and living life. Like I had a sorrow whenever I was in certain situations again. And I guess that's how I know that it was different from that moment. But like I said, I don't know that I was still on fire chasing. And some people have that, and I wish that I would have had that. Like you hear stories of like God reached down and saved me, man, and I've been on fire, like on mission trips and saving people and preaching the gospel. That wasn't my moment. But I knew I was different. And that's why I say that, back then that was definitely the moment on which I changed. Still had a long road ahead, about learning more about, God, the relationship, Jesus, but knew that I wanted that. So yeah, I think that's something to point out. Um, because I think, like you said, everyone will have that at one point in time, and so to come back and just rededicate that and refocus, I think that's important. But I want to do that also for my kids. So, I agree. Sometimes, you mentioned every day, right? You should be doing that every day. I think that's a really good point. And I don't think people should get into like, I guess like, hey, like I got rebaptized. And I don't even think people should necessarily always maybe do that. Some people could look at that and be like, well, that's kind of showy. Mine was really for my kid. I wanted my kids to see me in that moment. Like they knew that I had changed even over that last few years, just as a father and a leader of the family. And I kind of wanted that just to be a symbolism.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of my driving force behind that. But I agree. You said die every day, kind of renew that every day. That's important.
Right. And I also just wanted to, like, after hearing you say what you just said, just kind of wanted to, exalt that point of view of like, that is such a real especially for the listeners, that's such a real level of faith. Not everybody that God has on mission, that God uses, is always that passionate, on fire since day one, extremely driven, overzealous. Not every faith is like that. In fact, I'd argue that most, aren't. There's a lot of men that have faith out there that just they work for it. They work for faith. They're disciplined, and they try to pray every day to be better men. And like similar to what you're saying, I just wanted to bring that up and like admire you for having a faith when it just doesn't come easy to everyone. But yeah, I just like what you said there. Just wanted to bring that up.
And I think too, like something that like I can say personally in my life is that like when you're saved. I think everybody knows that moment right for you. It's in that boot camp of like God really put his hand, his imprint on you to make you his. And it's like for me, I did the whole church thing. I got really involved and I loved it, but it was more selfish gain and other things like that it wasn't really honoring and glorifying God until I stopped going to the church because of my own personal reasons. Things happen in my life to where, I lose my stepfather, and I really had to call on Jesus' name, and for him to like, my most powerful moment is when I got saved, when I felt like a fire inside of my soul. Like I couldn't explain it. I thought I was dying. It was like a awesome kind of like fear, the same way you see an angel. People in the Bible see angels and they get scared because it's the real raw power of God that you're witnessing. It was like for me, that happened for me as well when I'm like he passed away and I'm calling out to God and calling on his name, and he just touched me in that moment. And that's when for me, I was like, I know I'm a Christian. I know I'm saved, but like I've been living my life for the Lord. And for me and for what's happened in my life, like I'm going to make sure that I'm going to rededicate my life, and I'm going to start taking Jesus more seriously. And I'm actually going to start living my life for him. So I think every man gets to that point in his life. You could be 30, 35, 20s, 15. I think it can, like you said, it can happen any moment in your life. And that fire can drive you. It drove me in the past, but like now I feel like reheated, reignited, as a 20-year-old when I was 15 years old and on fire for God as well. So it's kind of cool, and it's kind of crazy how God works. And he's still like, even though we're not always faithful to him, he is always faithful to us. I feel like that's the best thing I could say, like with just people that, we try to be the best men that we can be, but sometimes we let our own efforts and our own selfish pride and ambition get in the way, and life just gets in the way sometimes. We don't realize that we need to really be in communication and talking to the life giver every day.
Yeah, I think pride's huge in that. I think that that drives a lot of downfall, especially with the man. Whether it be in relationships, business decisions, man. Pride cometh before the fall, the haughty spirit before destruction I think that's Proverbs somewhere. So true, man. So that's a good point that you hit on.
So regarding, I know you mentioned you're an entrepreneur and like you kind of have multiple things kind of in the works as entrepreneurs do, but like, what recently, like in business or, other like just investments or anything else you got going on, like what in your business realm are you kind of interested in? Like what little projects you got going on that you're feeling passionate about or particularly like pursuing?
So over the last really like 6 months, my role has changed a little bit just in the big scope of things. I still oversee, still handle stuff with Jeremiah, still help out, people hiring, the team, culture, atmosphere, supply. I mean, you name it, still heavily involved, just not there every day like I was. I also work with regions. So I, help other entrepreneurs. Super cool, honestly, what I get to do at Regions. Get to help other entrepreneurs, gain access to funds that help their business grow. So super cool to be able to do that. But right now with Jeremiah's, we're in growth mode as far as the staff. We're coming into our busiest season. From really now. Well, I mean, I say now, and it's what was 20 degrees or something today. But normally, the spring break through the beginning of school, man, is crazy for us. So right now we're focused on bringing on people, we're huge on our team, super passionate about them. We don't like to just hire just anybody. And I don't want that to sound wrong in any way, but we don't just want someone who's going to come and just, take up space and just, go through the motions. We want someone who's going to, one, match our atmosphere and our culture. We're big on that. And then two, serve our community with the heart and the way that we want to. I think that's something that we're super passionate about. Is first making sure that our team is our number one priority, making sure that the culture is, one that makes them feel welcomed and loved and really family oriented is, I guess, the best way to describe it. And then if we're knocking that out of the park, man, the customers, the whole customer interaction, that's a byproduct, right? Yeah, like you can't come into a place that's run like that has a culture like that, and not feel love, happiness, you know what I'm saying, and not have a positive experience. So that's really how we focus on that. I guess you could look at it like kind of inside out. But that's kind of my role now. I guess what I focus on is the people side, the team side, bring morale. I'll pop in and cover shifts, help out with staffing when needed. If they're super busy, in just a random spur, I'll run up there and help scoop. So I guess kind of in a small little version, that's my role now, or some of it, I guess.
Yeah.
And something I'll say, like from working for you, I can say 100% exactly what you're saying is something that was taught to me, and I feel like it was conveyed, very, very well. And so I want to just honor you on that. And I feel like even though I was an older guy working there compared to the younger, high schoolers working there, it felt like that. And you're always so life-giving and encouraging. That was the reason why that I just on a whim was like, I feel like God told me this name. And I remember us, when I first started, I was like, we talked a year ago about this, and you offered me a job, and I didn't want to leave my job. And then God was like, hey, you don't have a job anymore. And it became, okay, let me reach out to Mr. Jerry and see if he can give me a job. So
yeah, it was
I was going to say,
cool
I want
how that worked out.
Yeah. And I want to say honor you for that, because it was even for a season, but like y'all loved on me and you really poured me into that season. And I appreciate y'all for that.
Yeah, man, but that's really where our passion lies. Our passion, like I like Italian ice and ice cream. That was the dream of me and my father. But like me and Anna's passion is, the next generation, being different for them than what they've seen everywhere else. Like we wanted to really create that. And one thing that I'll say, and I don't mean this in any type of way, but working with me, like people say that all the time, like, hey, I work for you, thank you. And I'm like, no, bro, you didn't work for me. Like we worked together. Like we had some great times. And that was something I was always passionate about, is making sure that you guys knew that you guys were important, you guys were family. And servant leadership is really how I look at that. And again, like, sometimes I say this, man, and I feel guilty because I know that I fall short and I know that I still make mistakes, but really the goal is servant leadership. And I even try to do that, like even in my past roles, like in corporate wise with like AT&T and stuff is, at the end of the day, you're leading, you're quote unquote in charge. But the quicker that you can serve your team, the quicker that you can make them feel valued and feel like they matter to you, and that you'll serve them in that, and that you're not just there to tell them what to do, but there to help them do the things that's required. I think that you, one, get respect, but two, so one of my buddies used to always say something. It's energy is transferred. It's never like depleted. It never dies. It always goes on. So like if you have positive energy or negative energy in a workplace, it's going to transfer, whether it be to other employees, customers, whatever the case may be. So, I mean,
Right.
that's the goal on that, servant leadership, serve your people, make them better. They're going to make their workplace better, your customers better. And the ripple effect is can go on exponentially.
100%. 100%.
So this next question, kind of multiple routes you can take with it. So really, I'm just going to let you take it where you want to. But what kind of dreams, goals, aspirations, whether that's business, faith, family, just whatever around that realm, goals and aspirations that you kind of, have placed on your heart that maybe God put there, or something that you just yourself feel driven to that you want to accomplish?
Yeah, don't let your dreams be dreams. I'll say that. That's if you guys haven't seen the Shia LaBeouf, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but
Yeah.
he's got this video, man, super, super simple, but super high energy. But he talks about just do it. And it's like a whole speech that he has. But he says, don't let your dreams be dreams. Do it today. And that's what I thought of whenever you were just saying that, Thomas. So dreams and aspirations, goals, kind of, one that is really on my heart. And obviously there's a ton, but this is just one that I would love to be better at. And you text me the other morning and asked me about this. And I was up super early. I was up like 3:30 that morning. Was in the closet blasting some worship. Well, I wasn't blasting. That's probably a stretch, but I had worship music on in my closet. I got like a little walk-in closet.
Yeah.
And I was just praying, man, talking to God. And again, not far from perfect. I don't do that every day, but it was something that, my pastor was preaching on at church. And, where do you go to encounter God? Where do you go? And I don't have that. I don't have a prayer closet. I don't have, a spot that I go and I sit, and I speak to him, and I'm like, man, I need that, because, I talk to him every day. In the morning, first thing I do is I read my Bible app for my scripture. I thank him for letting me wake up, see my kids. I thank him for protecting us through the night. But like to sit down and have devotional time in the morning, I wasn't having that. So something that he really was working on me on and really made me feel guilty and feel convicted on was that I haven't been giving him that. I've been putting my health, good things, putting my health as a priority, my family, work, getting to work super early with this new job. And he's just like, 5 minutes. And it was big. Like I could almost hear it audibly. Like I'm in the gym in the morning and it's like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and getting a pump before work. And like, I've been trying to clean up my gym music as well, but and then I just hear it, hey, you give me 5 minutes and now you're in here for an hour before you go to work. And so that's something, I guess, Thomas, that I would really, really love to be better on. And probably one of my spiritual goals is to spend that time with them every morning, like intimate time, like with the Bible, a pen and a paper, talking to him, worshiping and thanking him. And I really want to find a spot that I could do it every day. So my closet was my first spot that came to mind, but logistically, I'd love to have my wife involved. If my kids woke up early, like I don't want to deviate from that. So I would love to have them involved. So I don't think the closet long-term is the best spot, but that's something. And then, outside of that, obviously goals for work, just started this new job. So I want to increase there, want to eventually become a leader there. And, of course, standard, right? Provide for my family, want to be a better father. That's for sure. I'm actually reading this book that a guy at work gave me. And this guy is so smart, man. I say reading it, it's Audible. I really do need to get the paperback. Habits of the Household. So with anything in life, man, if you're stagnant, you'll die, right? If you're comfortable, you'll die. I'm a firm believer in that, right? So as a father, as a leader of your family, and again, I don't say this to condemn anyone. I don't say this to hurt anyone's feelings, because I don't do this all the time. Like I'm not perfect. I fail. I fail my kids. I fail my wife. This is just some things I try and pride myself on to do to be better. But you've got to work on something, no matter what it is. So habits of the household. He talks about good habits, and so those are some other things that are some goals this year. Is I want to create better habits for my family, both in our routines and our nighttime time that we spend together. So yeah, spend time with God in a specific spot daily and not rush it. really talk with him, be in his presence, be a better father, a better leader this year, and then beyond, and really focus on time with my family. Because again, I think we can get wrapped up in other things, work, the rat race, trying to be better. But the time that we have it's crazy short, man. So those are some things that I want to work on.
Awesome.
And I think that's really important. Like something that I need to work on, and that's the thing that's like I've been in a really busy season right now. Working at least 40 hours a week and getting there at 6 a.m. every day. Like it's been hard to be like, hey God, like I'm gonna spend, if I wake up right at 5, I have to get ready and just get ready for work, and that's my whole hour until work. And like it's even hard sometimes to be like, yo, I'm gonna have to wake up at 4:30 to spend time with the Lord and kind of get in His presence. So every time I do, like I said, I'm not perfect either, but every time I do it, like it kickstarts my day. And it's not even a pride thing of like
9-day difference.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's like it's not even like yo, I'm getting my day started before all y'all, like I'm better than everybody else, but it's like literally you just spend time with the Lord, and even 30 minutes, like it can be less than 30 minutes, but giving Him intentional time like that at the start of your day, putting Him as your first priority, but above everything else is definitely something that, like a lot of godly men need to work on, and something that like for me, like because speaking to you, because my dad, like he's in a very busy season right now, and something that he does when he has time is like he'll go to the gym out about 4:30. I think he goes at 5, but he still gets up pretty early to go to the gym. But when he does have free time, because we live in Meadowbrook, he'll go. I just doxed myself. That's funny. But he'll go to the offices in Meadowbrook, in that kind of corporate offices, and he'll just find a place to sit down in the park, and he'll just have his notebook and his Bible out, and he'll just kind of spend time with God in that way. And I think sometimes he even brings a speaker. And so, like for you, I've been to your house. You got a really nice deck, so like you go out there on the patio and just chill. Wake up your wife, wake up Miss Ann, and say, "Hey, like I want to read the Word this morning. Like let's go outside and read the Word and see if you can wake up, Ethan or some of the kids, and they come down and spend some time with God with us, just to get some like if that helps you in any way, I mean, I'd love to just throw an idea out there.
And that's what in this story, this and I forget the author's name, Justin Whitmel Early, but habits of the household, man, especially as young men, and I mean, it would help you tremendously just with the perspective. And that's what he's saying in there is like you need to have that devotion time, but whenever your kids get up or they want to get involved, like shouldn't shut that out. You should still do it. And what better way to lead them in that than letting them be a part? So yeah, that's good feedback, man. I appreciate that. And it's beautiful out there right now in the mornings.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's like you get to not only read His Word but see His creation. So and I know we already just talked about working on the gym playlist and stuff like that, but something that I feel like that's really important to your life and something that you've talked to me about a lot, and it's something that, for you it's very important is like health. And my question for you is like how important is living a healthy lifestyle, not only as a man and as a father, but a godly man and a godly father, someone that's looking after other people and taking care of other people?
Yeah. So again, man, like I say some of this stuff, and I just hope that my heart is heard and not just my words, if that makes sense. But I think that you have got to be taking care of yourself. Just one as a father. I mean, there's all the memes out there in the world. There's that meme where the kid and the mother are being carried by like some army dude, and the dad's walking in front with like a bag and like shoes, and was like, "Don't be the guy carrying the shoes." Like, and then you're like, "Oh wow, that's the husband." So there's things like that kind of drive that. But realistically, and now really sitting and thinking on it, I think it also may even come from a small place of fear, if I'm being honest. Like my father, my grandfather, my great grandfather, like all died heart attacks, 54.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think, just the thought of, leaving my kids earlier than I would have to. And I'd love to say that, my dad and his health and how he went, that I made better choices through life. I didn't. I started smoking cigarettes like at night, 16 after my dad passed away, and did stupid things. But I think now, as as an older man, and I look at some of the stuff, like I don't want to be overweight where I can't run, jump, play with my kids. Like I don't want to be to a point where I have to kind of tell them how to live, but not show them how to live. And really what you eat, man, and how you take care of your body and the exercise, like that is the determining factor on your quality of life whenever you get older. It is a clear indicator to, your lifespan, I mean, what you eat, how you move, what you do, those things will either prolong your life or they will shorten your life. That simple as that. Right. So it's like, what choices are you going to make? And again, I'm really big on the comfort piece. And like I say to my boys all the time and my kids, like, because there's times I won't even heat my food up. Like I eat very repetitive things.
Dog food, they call it.
Yeah. Like, how can you like that? And I'm like, look, man, I don't eat to live. I mean, live to eat. Right. I eat to live. Like I want my body to be healthy. I want to fuel my body the right way. Like I don't spend a lot of time like eating. Now, again, with my family, like that's a place we break bread. That's a different story. But like for myself,
Right.
like I'm at work and at lunch and people leave the office and go and get something to eat. Like, bro, I brought steak, my leftover steak from the dinner before and 2 sweet potatoes, like mashed them at my desk while I'm still making phone calls. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I try not to worship that. I think some people really put food in their life as like an idol, which is dangerous. But I've always been like, as a man, I think that you should be, and this is going to telling on me, man, but I think men should be masculine. I think that you should be a unit. So like, I lift weights to be strong because I have a family that I want to protect, but also, I want my kids to look and be like, that's my old man right there. I want my daughter to see me and be like, wow, hey, that's how a man should take care of himself. And again, the physique part, you feel good about yourself. And if you feel good about how you feel, you will perform better. I think you'll be a better person. You'll help others. So there's some things that, go into, the personal side of it too. But ultimately, I want to be here for my kids. I want to set good examples for them, man. And I want to be able to protect them. I want to be a dominant force. I don't want to be, a force that looks like, couldn't protect his family, walking down the street. So
I think that's important, and it's something that I feel like as a society we're getting back to, because I would say that's something that slowly but surely, and that's why I'm so excited, like because my dad sets that example for me and he sets that standard for me. I feel like you do that for your family very well, and it's something that just like, why would you not? Like, and even you, like you said, you look at the long-term health effects of even like I think they've done bone scans on 70-year-olds. And when that goes to the gym and does weight training, and when that doesn't, and the bone density is night and day difference, it's completely, it's not even, we're talking about weak and frail bones. Somebody's that strong bones that can, regardless of what muscle is there, because they've been working out and their bone density gets higher, that they're able to like actually walk and perform and not be the person that's having to drive around in a scooter, but the 7-year-old man that can walk with his head held high and his back straight, like,
yeah, they
that's
say
a big
grip
deal.
strength is like one of the number one factors on what is it, more but yeah, man, I don't know. Like I said, I think a lot of it is that masculine thing, but like you said, I mean, you want to be fit. You want to have a body that, if God's blessed you with that and you have the ability, why squander those things?
Right. Take care of that temple.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think even too, like you look at it back in the Bible and like how old some of these men of God were, and they were still, I mean, like they were like, think about Noah, think about Abraham, like these are older men, like still had the faith of God inside them. And they were walking like, they didn't know what pounds were. They didn't know what a bench was or deadlift, all that type of stuff,
Bro,
but they were
Noah
active.
was built the art for what, 100 years or something. And how
It's
old
a
was he?
long
Like
time.
600 or so? Like he was like crazy old too.
Right.
Now, there's so much debate on, how they counted the year. You know what I'm saying? All that, but still, man,
Mm-hmm.
crazy old, and still doing those things. That's why I heard a quote one time from Gary Brecka, and it was, "Aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort."
Mm.
Um, and it's like that couldn't be more true. Like you hear it all the time, and people try and play it up, and they're like, "Oh man, I got married, I got fat and happy, right? Like because I'm married." Like, well, why?
Yeah.
Like, why did you allow that to happen? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I see coaches, and they're like, "Man, you got to do this, you got to do that," and and they challenge these kids to be better, and it's like, why have you given into your circumstances? And so sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
think it's also a huge mental thing. Um, I'm big on mental strength and pushing yourself there. So,
Mm-hmm.
also with keeping yourself in shape, it's also sharpening your mental mind, your mental game, and does a lot for you, probably more mentally some days than it does physically. So those are important things to point out.
How does being a father, especially like from what you kind of told me in your story, being a young father, like how did it change your perspective on life?
Ah, uh, that's a huge question, man, because it's
Yeah.
evolved. So I had my first son whenever I was 19 years old. I would love to say that like I woke up like whenever my son was born and I was like, I'm a man now, and that I made great choices, but I actually uh, claimed that I loved him, but still made stupid decisions, man. Um, so it was something that I knew that again, it's kind of like the salvation piece, right? Like I knew something in me had changed. Like my feelings for my son were immense. Like I never felt, those type of feelings before, and knew that I had to be better. Always worked hard for my family. Always knew that I wanted to be with my wife. Even whenever we were younger, we got engaged March of that year, 2007. And then we had Ethan, wound up having Ethan December.
Wow.
So, yeah, so you could do the time frame there. Asked her to marry me in Disney World, March 14th, 2007.
Mm.
Um, like I said, knew I wanted to be with her. We had dated on and off through grade school, all the way up through middle school, and then had seen each other again later in life. And so it was cool. It was full circle moment, but still had some growing to do. So made stupid decisions. Still trying to be out partying. Living that type of scene. My wife, it was like as soon as she found out, like her whole mindset had changed. Like she was ready to give up everything and just be like motherly, and like you could tell like something had just switched. It
Mm-hmm.
took some growing for me. So that was a big jump there, kind of learning that. And then, wanted to just be there, kind of be his best friend was my goal whenever I was a younger man. And then quickly realized like it's a very high calling. So
Mm-hmm.
sometime in my 20s, Ethan was young, and I realized like we could still be best friends, but that I had to be that leader, that guiding light, and actually sharpen him into a young man. So that's where kind of like that discipline had changed. And but expectations were high. Uh, I felt like sometimes I felt it failed him in that. And now, like looking back over the last say 5 years, if you had to just kind of summarize it, like I've really figured out what was important and kind of give up on some things that weren't so important, or, that I realized weren't so important. So now really just trying to be intentional with, my time, focus on, pouring into them in a positive manner and trying to let go of the little things, man. So I guess that's how I kind of developed over that time.
I love that answer. I wouldn't want a different answer, like I feel like that's you to a T. That I feel like what I've experienced from you, and just how you love on your kids and just take care of your family. I think that's amazing. It's good to hear that, because me coming from a young dad myself, like it felt that way as well. You know what I mean? Just trying to figure things out, but also then realizing like I have to lead my two sons. Like This isn't just a fun thing that I can be their best friend,
Yeah.
But Thomas, you got,
that Ethan raised me more than I raised him, for sure, bro. And I tell him that now that he's older, like we have a totally different relationship.
Right.
So it's been cool to kind of walk that out. Definitely a blessing.
So Jerry, being married and being a father of four, more so on the marriage part, just kind of curious, just whoever you want this to be to, young men, older men, whoever, what are your tips, advice, kind of guidelines on marriage, like good godly marriage? What do you have to share about that?
Well, again, I'm firm in like transparency. So, we are working daily. I think that's probably the most important thing. But I think communication, and it's something that I, again, fall short on. So I kind of share that. That way, maybe someone can learn from that and be better for it. But communication, I think in any relationship, communication's key. But not only knowing just like communication, but knowing how to communicate with that person and how they receive it, and being able to understand them. Right. But I would say, with the marriage, something that's tough with the kids is making sure that your marriage is your number one priority. Me and my wife have tried to focus on that more here, in the latter part of our life. For a while there, we were like, we live for our kids, we'll die for our kids, and it was like, again, almost we were putting them in front of ourselves. So that's something we've really tried to focus on, especially the last 2 years. We took our first trip without kids, January this year, for our anniversary. It was our 14th anniversary this year. And we went on a cruise, just Anna and I. We had never done anything like that before. We always felt guilty being away from the kids. So I would say focus on your relationship. Never stop dating. Again, I'm sure my wife would have probably a much different list. But like I always open the door for my wife. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I don't come home with flowers every day and like, play the guitar and sing to her. But, like little things that I think are important, like, serving her in that manner. Like, I normally always drive, one, just so that she could feel that, the security, the safety. She doesn't like to drive. I always open the door for her. If there's something, that upsets her, frustrates her, it frustrates me. I want to, eliminate whatever it is, right? I want to fix things for her. So I guess serve her, communication, and love her, man. One thing that I wish I could do better, or that I try and do better, that God's been working with me on, is like, you're meant to love your wife like Christ loved the church. Well, he died for the church. You know what I'm saying? And like, I think as men, it's easy to be like, I would die for my wife. I would take a bullet for her. Like, someone comes into the shopping center, like I carry, a pistol to protect my family. And I'm like, oh man, I would, like, I've already replayed it. Like, I'd be behind the aisle, like pow, 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 a gunfight for him. But it's like, will you fold the laundry?
Yeah.
Will you do the dishes whenever
That's real? That's real.
You'll die for, but will you do like the little things that, and so that's where I feel like I fall short. I feel like I'm chivalrous, like fall on the sword. Like, I'm one of the 6% U.S. that would feel like he could kill a bear with his hands. especially whenever it comes to like my family. But like I fall short in those moments and need to be better.
Yeah.
So I would say those things, man, making sure that it's the little things that matter, communication and loving her. Like I said, Christ loved the church. He served the church, washed the feet. Like, do those things and your marriage. I don't think you'll have any issues. Now you'll have other issues outside, but you guys will be a rock together. And that's something that I think, me and my wife have been together for so long. We've been together since we were kids, dated whenever we were in seventh grade. And, we've been through some crazy things together as a married couple, as, engaged couple, dating whenever we were having Ethan, at 19. So I also feel like we could battle something. So I think that you got to do all those things, but I also think a good marriage has to be tested. And that sounds crazy, but you know what I'm saying? I think you got to go through some stuff to have, that really strong bond. So I don't know. I don't know if that answered your question, Thomas.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of, man, honestly, that kind of hit me a little bit when you're talking about like, I would die for my family, but that little pause and you're just like, but will you do the dishes?
Yeah.
Will you put the laundry away? Will you discipline your son when, like you don't want to and things get hard? Like, yeah, so yes, I appreciate you sharing that. That was very helpful. And especially for, I think a good thing, like you said, we're slowly moving this way now with this generation, but a good thing, but also kind of a weird thing is like you do get these young men that kind of have that passionate, like strong drive, but also can lack that factor of, doing the hard things when it comes off to us as a man to be that strong, warrior type. But what it really means to be a man is to support your family, lead and lead by example and do what you got to do, not just that fierce, strong protector. While that's an aspect of it, that's not all that there is to fatherhood, like you just shared.
100%.
So, absolutely. That helps a ton.
I think that's even a smaller portion, if I'm being honest, Thomas. Like, I think that violent, and I say violent, not in like crazy, like scary, but like the violent, masculine, warrior type mentality. I think that is 100% necessary as a husband, as a father, as a man. But I think that it is so much smaller in reference to the other things that you need to actually be a good man.
Yeah.
You guys listen to Jordan Peterson?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure
Yeah,
do.
he has one. He's like, like you should be able to be a monster, but contain it.
Yeah.
And then there was another. I'm huge on quotes, man. I don't know if you guys have seen. Like, I try and like whenever I go to the gym, I'll do a little video. I take a scoop of pre-workout. I say like a day, another scoop, and I try and share like a motivational quote or something to help you start your day on a positive. But I saw this quote one time and it stuck with me. It's like, I'd rather be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war. And it was like a picture of this dude, and he's jacked, and he's got like a samurai sword, but he's sitting there like pruning a bush.
I love
And
it.
like that should be the picture of the man,
I love
right?
it.
Like,
yes.
Being able to destroy anything that came against your family,
Yes.
but being the one to like hold your daughter when she's crying and console her and like build her up, like, and that's something, again, like over the last 5 years, I think that has really been working on me. I was, kind of rude sometimes. I felt like I had to be like a big bulldog, like, and kind of personified that. Like I felt like that was, what a man was. Even like with my kids and like with the discipline, like I felt like, you should be like fearing, your kids should be fearing you, but it's really not, man. And I think that sometimes, I think that's where that masculinity gets a bad rap, is in those moments, right? Because it's not all that, but I also think you can't not have that. So sorry, that's a tangent, but I'm pretty passionate about that, man.
I completely agree with
boys.
you. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I just think, like, furthermore, it's just being like a powerful servant, just serving your family, but but no matter what, like you're ready at the same time. So there's like a duality there, but yeah, I perfectly agree with what you shared there. So
And like 100%, and when you think about exactly what you're saying, when you think about Jesus, the perfect example of not only to be of Christ, but also like for us to look as godly men. Like he had controlled anger, right? When he needed to get mad at those people in the market, like
He would
they're
flip
making
a
it
table.
right, and that's because it was exactly what he needed to do to make sure and understand that people like, I'm serious about this. This is my Father's house, and you turn it into it's a den of robbers. And then also too, just like exactly what you said that I wanted to make a point on is like servitude. Like that's what men have like first of all, that's what God did first, right? Instead of like what's a lot of Jewish scholars and leaders want to believe, especially in the near future, that he's supposed to be a king, high and lifted up, that he's power, like, and it's like God did all those things, but he also served other people. That's what Jesus did, because he was a true Messiah and he served other people. That was what God did. He came first, that we should serve him, and that we do serve him now. Like in that moment, he served others and he served first. And so like if not only is like godly men, but especially for you, Father, and for us is hopefully the next 10 years, like fathers to children, that we serve first. We serve our wives first. We serve our children first, and we serve God first. He is the list, right? So he is the list, and we follow all those things on Paul, and that make sure we serve ourselves and take care of ourselves as well. But 100%, I agree with that. That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
In what ways has God kind of called you to ministry, and what does ministry mean to you?
I guess the best way to articulate it. So yes, drawn to it, not like vocational ministry, not like, going and starting a church. I have preached like some sermons, as crazy as that is, like even at that boys' home, like I wrote a couple of messages and preached those to the other boys. Super cool moment. I really enjoyed the studying, I think, more than just the preaching, but it was cool to be able to speak life into, my peers at the time. So yeah, he's definitely been drawing me in, trying to use me for more, really drawn to like broken youth, and especially like fatherless kids. That's something that's near and dear to me. Kids who have lost their fathers, whether it be traumatically or anything like that, man, like it's just something that still weighs on me. I think that it helps me grow, kind of giving back, but it also helps me put purpose to my pain that I've been through. So it helps me, I think, heal in a lot of ways too. But that's kind of where my ministry is. Even whenever I was, heavily involved at Highlands, we've since swapped churches there. But even whenever I was there, man, like I was on motion team, I was on the city groups, did, everything for the high school, my son and some of his friends, there was about, I think, up to 10 of them at a time. And then 2 other dads, we did a study group, a Bible study with them, a small group for, I think it was like 4 years, wound up being from whenever they was, in 6th grade all the way up. Yeah, actually 4 years. So 6th grade all the way up through 10th grade, got to see them grow and stuff like it. So, he's always been working on me on that, man. I feel like I communicate well with people. So he's been trying to, really get me to sharpen that and kind of tell my story. That's why it was cool that Andit had reached out, and asked about this. It was all kind of lined up. I'd actually just spoke with one of my buddies and was like, man, I'd really love to, talk more about my testimony and use it to help people. So yeah, I don't know that up in front of a congregation, but definitely drawn, and being called to speaking to people, kind of being able to minister to their life. Like I said, super, super big with the youth. That's why, like, for me, my ministry for the longest time was Jeremiah's, like having the kids there. Like, I don't know how many times people would come to me with something they were going through. Anna and I were able to pray over them, speak life into that. So that was like, honestly, kind of like my ministry. So yeah, that would be my answer to that.
That's good. That's good. I think it's important to highlight that too, especially in like, obviously you are a very, I'm sure you wouldn't say this about yourself, but obviously with what you've shared, you're a good working model of what a godly man should be, especially for his family. So I like that we get to highlight how a man like that spreads the gospel and invests in other people, not necessarily directly within the church, and how we can actually be doing that everywhere we go throughout our daily lives, our daily jobs, our, relationships everywhere. So definitely wanted to highlight that. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I love that question, because it's, I don't care about, like, I want to be in the next few years, like, in full-time vocational ministry. But for me, it does not matter. Like, we're all, in my opinion, we're all pastors. We're all leaders. A pastor, or those terms, they give people clarity. And I've been saying this a lot lately to a lot of different people, but that just gives people clarity to a position or title. But God is all, and so by you doing that, like, being able to be someone that lost your dad at a young age and pour into young men that have the same exact situation, like exactly what you said. And I said this to kids that I serve with at Hillcrest for juvenile ministry. Like, there's a purpose behind your pain. Like, God is not done with you yet. This is just the beginning. Like, God wants you to use you to help other people. And that's why I love that question, because if you're a Christian, if you're a true Christian and you love the Lord, you are in ministry.
Yeah.
Don't care what you do. Don't care how much you get paid or you don't get paid. You are in full-time ministry because you're interacting with people that may not have the presence of God in their lives or in their hearts like we do. And so when you're able to speak life and be like Jesus to them, even in the tiny, subtle ways, that's ministry,
and plant the seeds.
100%, exactly. And I love that you said that, because we're also warriors. We're also servants, but we're just farmers. That's something I like to say a lot too. Like, we are literally just farmers. We try and plant the seeds of truth that God's already given us, and then He's also going to water it. I mean, if we can we can also be a part of the watering process. We're farmers. We are farmers. And I was going to ask those next two questions that I have prepped for you. I don't feel like they're necessary to the conversation that we're having right now. This is my opinion. If not, that's cool. And it's not even about the time limit. I just feel like for you, the thing that I want to ask you, because we're talking about you serving at group homes, which is amazing, which is really cool, by the way. Like, cannot edify you and just say that that's amazing more than enough, because I'm doing that with juvenile ministry in a way right now. Who are you pouring into right now? Not just with the business with Jeremiah's and just the group homes, but and not just your family. Like, who are people specifically that you're pouring into right now as a man of God that interacts with so many people in your day to day?
Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest people, whenever you ask me that came to mind is really trying with my kids. And wanted to say that earlier, like, whenever you refer to ministry, like, as a father, like, that is your ministry too, right? So tons of responsibility with becoming a father, but then also people at work, man. I've got some people who I still talk to from, AT&T, man, 10 years ago. People that I've hired, people that I've poured into, just like I did, with you at the ice cream shop, right? Whenever I was at AT&T, it was so much bigger than selling cell phones. It was so much bigger than, a sales quota. These people were literally opening up their life and letting you pour into them as a leader, right? So for 8 hours a day, or however long I was at the stores, as I traveled between all the stores, I always made sure that I was a point to pour into them. So still some of them, I still have some cats that reach out to me that, we discuss, so prior coworkers, new coworkers, friends, but really my family, my boys especially. That's been top priority.
How hard is it having a big family and being able to lead well, knowing the impact that fatherhood has, not only on your kids, but how big of an impact it had on you as a young man growing up?
Yeah. So that's where, my story's a little different. You hear a lot of people, especially in this area in Alabama, and they're like, man, my daddy was saved. My grandfather was saved. I have my grandpa's Bible. Like, that wasn't like it for us. Like, my father had, a bar whenever he was 17 that he managed, like in a basement of his candy store. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like
Wow.
my dad's upbringing, our lineage is like, bookies, gambling, again, it was kind of a crazy, crazy story. My dad was an alcoholic, drank a fifth of scotch, every day, for several years. So, growing up and kind of how fatherhood impacted me, it really didn't set like the tone, I guess, for like the godliness and those things. Those things are something that, I've grown in, since I got, at that boys' home and kind of really set in place for my kids. So leading in that sense is still new to me, I guess. Like I didn't have a model that, I got to kind of replicate. So that's been tough. It's definitely something that I know is important. And kind of trying to be that model for my kids. Like I said, sometimes I feel like I fail often, not sometimes. I feel like I fail often. And then, what also hurts in that, is knowing that you're broken, knowing that you're trying to lead your kids and be the model of Jesus for them, but like still trying to figure that out on your own, is probably some of the things that are the most tough. And I guess, could you ask your question again, Andon? I'm trying to hit all the points. It was kind of a loaded question, but
How hard has it been with not having the best example, having a dad that like did care, that he did love you and he did care about you, but there was just a lot of things that you had to learn yourself. And you're, like you said, you're still learning on being a man that leads others well, especially your family, but also making sure Jesus leads you well first.
Yeah. So I guess, so to clarify that, Dad was great. Just in the godly realm, as far as walking that out, like, some of the stories that you hear, like I just didn't have that. Amazing father, loved us. I believe that he was saved, and I believe that his kind of saved moment was much later in his life. He had gone in and prayed at church, asked for, the change, forgiveness. They administered to him, walked out that day after, having a drink every day, walked out and never had a drink again. So like crazy.
Wow.
Story from that, going from drinking the fifth of scotch, but still didn't like go to church all the time. Like my mom was that for us. But obviously losing him early, I think impacted the way that I love my kids, impacted things that, I do with my kids. There are certain mannerisms and certain things that I have to do with my kids that I think if my dad was alive today, they wouldn't be as meaningful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So I guess having him, the relationship that we had, the love that we shared, man, like that's made me want to recreate that with my kids. But I want my kids to be better in the sense that I want them to be better individuals, not only just better than me. Where my dad, I think, always wanted me to be better than him and do more and accomplish more. But like raising the standard, raising the bar, he did that, but he didn't show me that. He kind of told me that. And I would like to show my kids how to raise that bar, not just tell them that. And again, if my kids heard this, they'd be like, wow, this guy, where's he been? Right. But I say all that to say those are things that I try and work on daily. And I would, kind of lost my train of thought there, but yeah.
No, that's perfectly fine. I don't think you did. I feel like that was an amazing answer. And like with my life being in a blended family for a really long time, still kind of going through that, like it doesn't really change if your parents get divorced in my circumstance and in Thomas's circumstance as well. But for me, like with my stepdad, like he helped potty train me, he helped raise me, in many ways. And, he died from taking his own life. And that wasn't even a year ago, and I'm still processing and allowing God to heal me in those ways. And it's even crazy to think about that, like it was almost a year ago. But for me, there's so many things I feel like for my dad that make me the man who I am right now. and also from Brett, like my stepdad. It's made me become the man that I am right now. And I have both their mannerisms. Like I itch my nose like this. Everyone makes fun of me from that. But that's just something I got from my dad, because my dad was like, if you shake somebody's hand, your knuckles are touching their hands. So it's a very kind of healthy, whatever type of thing. And it's not as nasty, you would say. And, but also there's just certain things that, like, I have a goatee. My stepdad wore a goatee most of his life if he wasn't having a full beard. And he wore hats a lot. That's where I get wearing hats from. And I feel like you get that from your dad as well. Like you love hats. We're all three wearing hats right now. But it's like exactly what you said. It's like our dads are not perfect. Men, if you're a human, you're not perfect. If you're a dad, you're not perfect. Like we can only call that for Jesus. And Jesus was a human that was also God, but he was not a dad. But he is really like a father. He is, because he's a father to all of us, but not had kids, in that way. Like physical kids. But no, I 100% agree. And I'm glad that you told me that, because there's so many things that I'm learning about you right now that I wish that we would have actually sat down, and whether it was go fishing somewhere or just spend time one-on-one with Ethan, which I still want to do that. You're not far away. We're so close that we can still do that. That I appreciate you opening up, because something that we've said in every single episode, even before this, because this is our 4th episode, is that, like, being vulnerable, but having strength in vulnerability. And also, like, you brought all this stuff to the light. Like, regardless, this is not your first time telling people your story and telling young men your story. Like, you've already brought that into light. You've already gotten healing from some of these things. And I know healing can be a process. It can be a continual process, most definitely. But, like, God's able to use this. And so thank you for being so vulnerable with us and with the audience, whoever watches this, whoever listens to it, whoever you share it to, that's like, I didn't know that about Jerry. That's crazy. Like, for you to have vulnerability like that and it be a part of your testimony is amazing. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you coming on and doing that for us, and doing that for God, and for whoever listens into this, regardless if they know the Lord or not, because this gives an insight to everyone on how it is to be a young dad and a young strong man that wants to be that is a business owner, is trying to lead his family well.
I know you kind of answered, who are the guys that you're pouring into. You mentioned your family, but kind of like flipping that question a little bit, who are some young guys or older guys or other just guys in your life that are actually pouring into you? Like, who do you feel yourself really receiving from lately that God's placed in your life?
Man, so kind of poured into my life. Obviously, my dad was a huge guiding factor in my life. My uncle, my family personally, and then I have some like business guys, man, that really shaped me, even on the business side, but also as a young father, a young man. Some guys that I've worked with in the past, like my buddy Terry. He's helped me like basically my whole career in sales. A lot of my success is because of him, and shaping me and guiding me and, coaching me along the way. Another guy, Rex, that I used to work with, another great guy. He was my RD. Terry was my district manager, my RD, as I was a DM. So grew with those guys in that field in telecom, so which was pretty cool. And then I guess if I had to say right now, man, like my pastor now, and really got kind of a core group of friends, that some men that I've been, met at the gym, just different walks of life that have come together. But like my pastor, Aaron, right now is stood in the gap for me for some huge things that have happened over the last, 2 years, just with my family and stuff. And some things that we've been going through, and that's really who comes to mind. I think if you speak about lately, just really pouring in me as a young man, as a father, as a husband, as a man of God, really challenged me to be better in areas. That's who was talking about kind of where's your spot that you go speak to God, and I'm like, man, I don't have that and need to get that. So I guess that would be my answer there, Thomas.
Yeah, man, I just like hearing the different perspectives to that question, honestly, because people will.
Yeah, and I'm sure I left some people out, man. Like as I think back, there's more people there, but past big pillars, and then now, that's who it would be.
Yeah.
Sorry, not to cut you off.
No. But I like that question a lot because you really see how the mindset of someone can be formed based off just like who they're receiving their input from, whether that's, just on being a man, on leadership, or on being a Christian, kind of where they receive that input from. So I definitely do like that question. But yes, you answered it. Thank you. So moving into the next question. Now, I'm going to ask this very simple because I think it's a simple answer. But with everything you do, entrepreneurship, business related, do you like owning your own business? Simple as that.
Overall,
yeah.
Yes. Love it. There are moments in entrepreneurship, though, where I think that you still love it, right? But it's like you're ready to tap out and quit, right? And I think
Right.
if you don't have that, you will, right? At least in a successful entrepreneurship. Kind of relate it to your kids. Like, you always love your kids no matter what, but there are days where your kids push you to, limits, as a parent, and you're ready to just be like, look, I need a few minutes, So yes, I think I do love it. It's probably one of the hardest things outside of parenting that I've ever done. But yes, I do.
Awesome.
Wouldn't change it for the world.
That's for all the like young men out here that listen to this podcast, and like, I know Andon is interested in doing something like that down the road. So just like for people like him, or for like people like me even that like are interested in doing something independent, something you built, would you do it again? Do you like it? That kind of, but thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with anything, there's things that you would go back and change, and maybe some choices that you would do differently. I think of, just entrepreneurship and having success in that. Success is also kind of all over the map, right? People look at success differently. Entrepreneurship is not, hey, I'm going to go sit on the beach. And for some people, maybe it works out like that. But it's always much harder work than you give anywhere else. It's normally, tough to start, but so worth it, man. Like having those moments with my kids and stuff in the ice cream shop, being able to meet people like and work beside them. Some of the relationships you'll get out of that, and being able to impact people's life. Things that I would never regret, and cherish for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to kind of keep on like keying in on that a little bit is how does Jeremiah's for you owning that business? How does it help the community, but also helps you as a business owner and overall just a man in the community?
So in the community, we help out a lot of different ways. Some ways, both directly with Jeremiah's. Some ways because of what Jeremiah's has done for us, we're able to help out in the community. We try and sponsor, and we give back, and we try and do things, whether it even be just, little give backs, with kids, in the community with the schools and stuff. We always try and stay involved. But I think the biggest way that we've impacted the community is really the kids that work with us, man. And I think if, we look at, from whenever they came, they started with us to whenever they left, I would hope that they would say they're better, but I think that all of them have left better with either skill sets that they didn't have, or, even with just a confidence that maybe they didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we've been able to, pray over people, Anna and I, and, pour into some young kids that maybe didn't have, good figures to look up to, both maybe in marriage as well as maybe just in, life in general. Right. So I think we were able to give, maybe some kids that had a different walk of life, just a different perspective, just to see even for a moment with some of them. So that's been cool. So that's what I would say is our biggest way to change the community, man, is through our staff. Super passionate about that. Jeremiah's has obviously changed us. I think that was the second part of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
How's it impacted us? So it's obviously given us another revenue stream. I mean, I'm not, driving a Lamborghini, and we're not in the Bahamas and stuff, like, fishing. But it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely, and some days, man, we're planning out which bill we're going to pay, right? Like, I mean, it's tough to run
Yeah.
your own business. It truthfully is. But what it has done for us is it's given us time back with our kids. And I know that sounds crazy because, especially depending on the season, we're there all the time. But being able to control that and have our kids with us, and being able to, at the end of the day, really adjust our schedules and be able to move and hit and be there for the things that they need. And maybe not both of us, because, one of us may need to be there or whatnot. But just being able to have that and still be able to make a living and support our family has been really cool. So that's how it's impacted us. That's how it's impacted the community. And I think that was it, right? Was there another part of that?
No, you hit it on the hammer, I think.
Okay.
And I think that's so cool. Like that like really thinking about that is so cool. And I know that it helped me for that time, and I wouldn't have you on here if it wasn't for that, and I wouldn't know you and know your son so well, and trying to do the best that I can, with that time, and even still now trying to other ways of pouring into young men, including, like your son, Ethan, and like being there for people like that, and just showing you setting a good example like that for the staff, but also for me. And just like, man, I that's a great answer. I don't think, like I said, and I feel like that's a you answer. There's no other person that could answer it the way like that except you.
I appreciate
and you
that.
answered it. Yeah, of course. And this is gonna be the last question, but I want to end it out on a bang, and I want to make sure that you answer this to whatever. It doesn't have to be with business, just your life. Like, what is your dream and goals for the next 5 to 10? 5 to 10 is a big range, but what is your dream and goals for the next 5 to 10 years?
So for the next 5 to 10 years, I would really like to get to a place where, one, I'm much better father, husband, leader for my family. Like, I think that goes without saying. Like, that for me truly is an everyday focus, and sometimes I take 10 steps forward, and then sometimes I take 20 steps back, right? Like, I think that that's ever evolving. But I think, like, if I look just kind of big picture, I really, really, really want to have a deeper relationship with God, like putting him first, giving him my time first. Because one, I think that that'll really have all the other pieces fall into place. But that, and then having my time, like I want to build enough revenue streams, man, where and that was the whole purpose of, going back to Regions, was to be able to get more income there, and really set ourselves up for success for the next 5 to 10 years. I would like to, have, more property. I'd like to be, have, kind of a better living situation where, the outside world isn't as loud. And you've got more property to sit and think and be in nature and spend that time as a family. Like, that's something that we've really driven to. We've cleaned up our diets a ton. We've really tried to become, healthier in that, and more self-reliant in that. Before the dogs got into them, we had, vegetables planted out on the deck. We had a puppy that tore every one of them out. So that was short-lived, but they were growing, and it was beautiful to see. So I would say 5 to 10 years, man, be in a place where, the cup is running over, not being, selfish with that, but being able to pour my cup out for others because God has blessed us so. But really being able to be in control of my time, where I'm intentional with my time with my kids. I don't have to give my time to others. I can pour into others because I have been blessed and my time is freed up. So I guess that would be that. 20 acres somewhere with a house in the woods.
Love it.
Spending time with the family and pouring into those that I can.
No, 100%. I think it's beautiful the way you worded that, like like our cup runneth over. The King James version, but my cup runneth over. Like,
Oh yeah, for
we
sure.
want to. It's not just, and I think it's beautiful, like the way he said, it's not just in like God's presence pouring out, which it is, but God's presence pouring out on so much over us that it pours out on others, was like exactly what you're saying, that like stewardship, like being a good steward of what God has given us, and making sure, like for me right now, I want to go to Highlands College, and I'm going to Highlands College in the fall, and I'm like, well, I have enough money to pay for the first year. I'm not going to really do anything for the next few months until August. I'm like, no, God's given me a body that I can still work and save money and be financially responsible and save more money for my future and take care of these things, because if not, that would just not be being a good steward. My cup wouldn't be runneth over, it wouldn't be running over my finances, and so I could bless other people and tithe more money to the church, so I can in return, God can bless other people. Like, I 100%, I love that answer. And just so, like, if I can speak life into you really quick, like throughout this whole podcast recording, whatever you want to call it, this conversation between three young men,
Or
from what I've just been hearing from, like, the Lord's, like, just with you talking to us, is like, for you, I just want to speak this over you. Like, I see, and not only I see, I know, like for you, I think the words that can describe you as an experienced leader in so many different ways and areas. And this isn't going to, for you, that's not going to happen in the next 10. That will happen in the next 5 years. Like, I want to just speak that over you. Like, that's not going to be something that's going to be hard to reach or inobtainable. Like, that's going to happen. I know it is. And for you to even have that heart, not to, it's just so, well, I can just be by myself and be by my family, nobody else. It's like, no, like, I want to make sure that everything I'm involved in, because I'm an experienced leader, and experienced leaders put other people as leaders, and show them experience and give them hands-on training and learning so they can do it themselves. You're going to be able to do that in the next 5 years, no problem, because of your experience, and be able to lead others well. So you can bless even more people in the process, because you're going to have more time to spend with other people, like me, like your son Ethan, and young men. I mean, even like with your kids, even like they're growing up in front of your eyes right now, like being able to have more time with them and lead them well. And then, because that's your core, and that's your most important thing, other things can flow out of that, with you even mentioned with me with coaching, and when you're outreach as well. Like, we're all hands and the hands and feet of Jesus. Like, you doing outreach, like, that's amazing. I know it's going to happen for you, and I'll be hoping and praying for that for you. But I'm speaking with faith that is going to happen in the next 5 years, no problem. So I just want to say that before we close, of course.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. What are some things you want to promote or just talk about and leave us with before we end this recording?
So I'm all about, man, being better than you were. I like the quotes. I like to share those things. So I'll leave you with a quote, a thought before we end the podcast, right? And if you follow any of my socials, the references are there. So anyone listening, but like before I go into the gym, each morning I share a thought before the pump. And again, I try and make sure that it's uplifting. So I have a quote that I coined, and it's, if you're going to do anything, do it with everything. So original quote there goes into like champion mindset. Like, that's something that I share a lot on my pages. Champion mindset for your mentality. Right? Like, life's not ever going to be perfect. It's always going to be hard. Like, there's days that are going to suck. There's days that you're going to feel like you can't make it. And maybe that may be true. Like, maybe you can't make it. Maybe you can't get through that. Maybe it's something that you're going to have to battle for longer than just a day. Right. But if you don't give up, you'll always be victorious, right? Because you'll always have another chance. So I'm just a firm believer in keeping that champion mindset. Do anything, do it with everything. Never give up until you're cold dead hands, man. Like that's the potential you have. It's unmatched until you die. So don't ever let yourself give up, give in. Keep that strong mindset and do it big.
Jerry, thank you so much for coming on, man. Honestly, I learned a lot just about being that good Christ-like father, leader, whether that's in business or with your family. So you definitely taught me a lot tonight. And I just wanted to thank you for coming on. Thank you for being vulnerable, sharing what you shared. And I think you just left me with a lot of thought and a lot of thought for the listeners, hopefully. So thank you again.
Yeah, appreciate it, Thomas. It's my pleasure.
And of course, just thank you for, like, we haven't known each other for even like that long comparatively to other people, but giving us and giving me this opportunity to have you on, has been a blessing. And I can't wait to listen back to this, and just hear all the good nuggets of wisdom and just God speaking through me, through you, through Thomas. That, like, I love listening to our podcast. It helps remind me of God's presence in our lives, and just how it does that for me, and I hope it does it for listeners as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you guys for having me.